Tonight is the big night. If you are listening to this on the day this podcast is released, please take a moment to pray for me. I am filming my comedy special in Denver tonight, and it is going to be a lot of fun, but I am managing a lot with this. It is slightly nerve-wracking, so please take a moment to pray if you are listening to this on the day it's released, or frankly at any time, because God is outside of time. So even if you are listening to this 2 years later, you know, you pull up this podcast, you're like, why is Jen so rich and famous here in 2027? I'd like to go into the archives and just kind of follow her success journey. Like, why does she have 5 million YouTube followers? And so if that's you, you can still pray for me for tonight because God is outside of time. And then I'm filming a second comedy special in New York City on May 10th. And in between them, I'll have a show in Plano, a show in Tyler, Texas. It's kind of random, but I'm looking forward to it. And then Columbus, Ohio. You can get your tickets to all of those things at jfcomedytour.com. And we will also do a long overdue Patreon live, a State of the Dumpster Fire update on Saturday, April 12th. We'll go ahead and do that, and then I will tell you, that's this coming Saturday, I think. Mm-hmm. We're pre-taping this, so I don't know. So April 12th. Okay, this Saturday. Patreon.com/thisisjen. You can chat with me live. Caitlin will be there. I'm sure all the kids will be running around and causing chaos in the background. So join the Patreon at patreon.com/thisisjen. This episode it's kind of a detailed follow-up of the previous episode, because not only is each individual episode of this show a seamless tapestry, all of the episodes just come together as a seamless whole. It's really quite beautiful. So I was talking last week about seeing what is good about yourself, and it goes back to the theme that we talk about quite a bit, just letting go of comparison, and in particular, letting go of any addictions to negative self-talk. To just review the episode 248, I was just talking about how we can associate beating ourselves up as moms, as wives, as whatever, just as people with love language. Like, I must be a great mom because I think about how horrible I am all the time. 24/7. It's like, you're the worst, you suck. And I'm like, look at what a good mom I am. I think about that all the time. And I just made the case that maybe it would be better for everyone if we didn't do that and focused on the positive a little more. And so in what is one of the most on-brand things I've maybe ever done on this podcast, I have created my own mom personality typing system. And this all makes sense to me. I'm like, this is what other people think about, right? That, you know how there's the Myers-Briggs, like you can be an INTJ or an ENTP. So it's 4 letters. And for each of the letters, you choose one of the two. So you're either an I or an E. You are an introvert or an extrovert. And I really should have researched Myers-Briggs more before I did this. Let's say IN. Don't know what that one is. Feeling versus... Well, it doesn't matter because this isn't about Myers-Briggs. This is about a much, much better system. It is Jen's mom type system. And I think that there's a lot of value in this because once you identify your mom type based on it's just like Myers-Briggs, like you choose one of 2 letters, I think it will actually help you see the areas that you can focus on and you can feel positive about, and recognize the areas that, it's going to be hard for you. And you almost definitely need to make some improvements in that area because that's not your area, but it's going to be hard for you. It's like when you know your Myers-Briggs type, which evidently I don't know anything about Myers-Briggs. I'm just like randomly bringing it up. I do know, like I'm an introvert. And so when you know that type, it can help you understand yourself and understand what to expect from yourself. I think in this day and age where there is so much awareness about being an introvert versus an extrovert and certain other personality type, being neurodivergent, for example, I think we almost take it for granted how much it helps us not beat ourselves up about certain things. So, for example, some of you guys remember, like some of you guys who are my age, there was hardly any talk about that in the 80s and in the 90s. And so I knew people. I remember knowing people in the 90s who would honestly think that they're bad people. They're not being good people because they don't want to socialize 5 days a week. They saw being shy or being introverted almost as like a type of sin or something, like, oh, I'm the worst because I don't like to go to the big gatherings and all that. And now that there is more awareness of that, people can approach those sides of their personality the right way. They might understand that they do need to push themselves sometimes. You can't be a complete hermit. You do need to occasionally go to the function, go to the gathering, but there is much less unnecessary self-condemnation now that there is awareness that it's just kind of who you are. And you're never going to be the person who wants to be out socializing 6 days a week. And you are not doing anyone a favor if you are doing that. And vice versa with extroverts. Like my friends who are extroverted, they know that, even they sometimes there's almost like, again, back in the 90s, people would, there would be criticism like, why can't you just stay at home more? Do you not appreciate your home? Why don't, why? I actually remember one time, like in the late 90s, we got snowed in here in Texas and we couldn't go anywhere for a few days. And my extrovert friend called me and she was like, I'm losing my mind. Like I haven't left the house in 3 days. And I was like, oh, that's so hard. And she was like, wait, when was the last time you left the house? and it occurred to me, I hadn't left the house before the snowstorm started. And I was like, 6 days, actually. I had not walked out of the doors of my house in 6 days. Didn't bother me in the slightest. And again, before that introvert extrovert awareness, there could have been some silly story told that like, well, Jen is just mentally tough. Jen just accepts her circumstances and Jen just appreciates her home and can, appreciate the beauty of home. It's like, no, there was no virtue involved in that. I love being locked in silent rooms. Like, it's amazing to me. That is my personality. And just like my extrovert friend, it's not exactly virtue when like she goes to a bunch of social events and she's talking to people and meeting new people. It is wonderful that she does it, but it's like, that it's just kind of how she's wired. It's who she is. So we know that with certain aspects of our personalities, but no one has been galaxy brain enough to apply this specifically to motherhood, to the tension points that you encounter in motherhood. And I almost skipped this topic. You don't know how close I came to not doing this because I was like, this is too nerdy. I can't. This is actually me foisting my neurodivergence on these people, and they don't want this. And I need to find something slightly more normal and relevant to talk about. Like last week, we talked about the submarine from 1960. And it's not that I don't know how to talk about relevant, timely topics that are totally on the same page with you guys. It's just that I thought I'd give this a shot, just in case. So I can't stop myself. I just have to tell you my mom personality typing system that I came up with so that you can figure out your mom personality type. And what will lead into that, again, I'm just setting up the podcast at this point. What will lead into that is the importance of knowing your sleep personality type. This is especially relevant for those of you guys who have young children, or it might be in your future to have young children. Listen to me. I think this is one of the most critical things you could possibly know and work with is your sleep personality type. You need to take note. Pull over your car. You're like, Jen, I'm on the Autobahn. I don't care. Pull over and take notes because it's so important that you know your sleep personality type. I think it's important like at any point in life, but especially for moms of young children, if you're going to take just advice or encouragement or compare yourself to influencers or anything like that. Again, I think I already said we will do a Patreon live this coming Saturday. That is April 12th. I will tell you how tonight went. I will tell you about all the things that are coming up for the May 10th filming in New York City. And then, and again, we have the shows coming up in Columbus, Tyler, and Plano. Caitlin, play our lovely tour jingle.
She was dropped by her agent and manager on the same day. Iconic. Now she's entered her villain era and she's back on tour anyway. Jen Fulwiler. News gonna drop. Jen Fulwiler. But she just can't be stopped. Jen Fulwiler. The tour is gonna pop. Takes the JFComedyTour.com. JFComedyTour.com.
This is the Jen Fulwiler Show, coming to you from Austin, Texas. We publish new episodes every single Wednesday morning. This podcast is available on all platforms, video on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. Wherever you like to follow your podcast, you can find it there. Let's see, this is the podcast. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. This is the podcast where you learn the art of the village hustle. That's being a hot girl boss or hot boy boss who knows that love and family and community are the foundations for all true success. And we do bonus content. We do live events. We do all sorts of great stuff on the Patreon, patreon.com/thisisjen. And our lovely producer is Caitlin White. So now, as usual, we will get to the main topic in the latter part of the show, and I always start with some intro topics, one of which is I really go back and forth about whether it is a limiting belief that I am just very different than other people, and nobody understands me, and I don't understand other people, or whether that's more of like a fact than a limiting belief. And I struggle with that because I do believe in the reticular activating system. I really do. And again, relatable content. Everyone's I think that there's a lot of truth to the psychology experts on TikTok who say that when you believe a certain thing about yourself, that triggers the reticular activating system in your brain. And so you start looking for those kinds of things in life. Oh, I forgot. I actually have a video about this. Caitlin, can I airdrop it to you? Since we're doing this live, hopefully there's no profanity in it, because Caitlin and I are both having a little bit of a challenging couple of weeks over here. So I know she doesn't want to edit. Hopefully this woman could just make her point without like, listen, you MFs, hopefully she'll just be able to do it. So I think there's a lot of truth to the idea that whatever you believe about yourself, you'll kind of see that in the world because you're looking for it. And through journal speak, you knew I was going to hit I brought up journal speak again, sound effect. Through journal speak, I realized that this is a theme. When I would talk about what is stressing me out or whatever, it would be like, people are rejecting me again because I'm just so different and they don't understand me. And it was like, okay, is this really actually happening this much in my life? Or is this something that I believe and am just determined to see everywhere? And I honestly don't know the answer. I really don't know whether I am choosing to see this because it's a belief I already had, or whether I'm just kind of a freak. Do you? Can we play it, Caitlin?
Mm-hmm. Okay. We're waiting.
So this is.
There was a study.
Yeah, pause it for. Okay, and we will do sound on this one. This is. This really makes my point. So excuse me. Listen to what this gal has to say.
In the 1980s that put fake scars on people's faces, and the people with the scars on their face were told that the purpose of the experiment was to see how people spoke differently to them with a scar on their face. But right before the experiment began, they were told that the scar needed a little bit more moisturizer, and a hair and makeup person would come up and actually cover up or remove the scar. Nevertheless, after the experiment, participants still said that people looked at their scar, that they spoke differently to them, that they were looking away, even though there was no scar. So my takeaway is that we believe that people are thinking about us a lot more than they actually are.
And that is from Jessie, Jessek Strom, Strom, on TikTok. And I've heard of that study before, and I think it's really interesting. And that sounds right, doesn't it? I mean, come on, we would all be susceptible to that. My face was paralyzed for many weeks earlier this year. And yeah, I did just look really weird. I think that people were just reacting to me weirdly because I looked weird, but definitely I was very conscious of that. And so I would think like, oh, that man, that checkout person at the grocery store thinks that I'm a complete freak. And I definitely thought that. I think I might have been right, but the point she's making is that if you just have it in your head, let's say you have it in your head that you're an ugly person and people think you're ugly because you have some trauma in your past that you've just decided that, you will kind of see it everywhere. And another thing that backs this up is as part of my face paralysis thing. So it happened because of cosmetics. So I ended up very deep in Reddit cosmetics. It was everything from Botox, fillers, plastic surgery, whatever. I just subscribed to all of them because some of them would talk about this kind of thing. And I was just like frantically desperate to hear more stories. So I ended up very deep in cosmetic Reddit. And here's what is interesting. I actually just this morning, I saw another post like this where someone will post and they'll say, can you believe how botched my rhinoplasty was? I got a nose job. Can you believe how hideous it is? I don't know how I leave the house. This is just awful. And then you look at the picture and they look totally fine. I mean, totally fine. And I don't mean I'm trying to be generous. I don't mean I'm trying to make them feel better. I mean, if I saw that, like the girl from this morning, she was talking about a nose job and she even admitted that maybe she's being a little sensitive. Maybe she's self-conscious. If I saw her, I would just think, oh, what a pretty young gal. She's very pretty. If you said she's self-conscious about a feature and you have to guess what it is, I wouldn't be able to make a guess. I would just have to name random parts of her face, like her eyelashes. Like I am not seeing any. I would never have said her nose. She got herself all worked up that her nose was just horrific and that she was just a beast and all that. And I see it all the time. Now, granted, that Reddit aesthetics people, Reddit plastic surgery people, not like the most sane group of people. Like I know, but we all do it. And you guys definitely do it. You have it in your head that people might think less of you, or they think you're too shy or you're too awkward. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You start to see that everywhere. So something that I have been working through in my journal speak is okay, let me rephrase that. Based on my past, to review for new listeners, I'm an only child. We moved a lot. So I didn't have friends. I didn't have siblings. This was before the internet. So there was no, texting or messaging people. Like you just lost your friends when you moved. I was perpetually the new kid, bullied all the time, like, and in a couple cases, pretty severe bullying. So obviously I have a little trauma there. I think I have basically worked through it, but I definitely have issues in the department of feeling like I don't fit in. And, it wasn't only that I moved and was an only child. I've always been a little different. I think differently than other people. So it was a lot of things combined to give me that perception that people don't understand me, that I'm not understood by other people. And so one of the things that I've personally been working through is that I see it everywhere. If I get kind of a terse email from a comedy club or something, I'm like, oh, they hate working with me. They think I'm weird. They don't like me. And so I'm trying to work through where does my self-perception end and the truth begin? And I had done some really empowering work. I listened to some real positive audiobooks, some real positive social media reels where I was like, you know what? I think I need to let go of this. I think Caitlin's already laughing. Caitlin's like trying not to laugh. I was like, I think that I need to accept that, like, I think I'm just like everyone else. And like, maybe I've just been perceiving all of this stuff. It's like my reticular activating system. I'm like the person who thinks they have a scar and they don't have a scar. And I told Joe this and he was like, oh. And I actually just thought of this. This is like the episode where like I shouldn't go into any of this. I'm just going to seem so neurodivergent. I shouldn't. Oh, I just thought of it. Okay, since I brought it up, I kind of feel like I have to say it now. So I had been reading about the power of being in the theta state, which is where you're like kind of half asleep but half awake. And I was trying to work out some stuff with my comedy special tonight that, you know, I'm trying to work out like what should the flow be, you know, how do I make this part funnier because I'm just taking too long to set up this. And so when you're in that like half awake, half asleep state, it helps. It honestly helps. It's like I sort of go into this, you know, sort of a galaxy brain mode anyway. So I had gotten up, it was a weekend day and, you know, all the kids were busy with like the house was fine. And so I had gotten up, I'd said hi to everyone and I was like, but I'm still kind of tired. I could like be in theta state. You guys, I laid in my bed for 2.5 hours. I was awake, but I was like thinking through, you know, the different things with the set and like my problems. And so Joe walked in and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were asleep. And I was like, no, I'm not asleep. I'm in theta state. He was like, you've been in here for 2.5 hours. I was like, I know, I've gotten so much done. And then I was like, oh, I use this mnemonic device where you can like remember, because I needed to remember like the action items that I came up with. So I used a different mnemonic device so that I didn't have to like write it down. And he was like, I don't think it's a limiting belief that you're like, really. He was like, I think you need to keep that one. You should probably hold on to that one. Like, and so that was, I wish I had a video of my husband when he thought I had been taking a 2.5 hour nap. And I was like, no, I've been in theta state. And he was like, I am actually married to this person. Like, this is like, I'm stuck with this person. Like, this is who I'm with. So Caitlin, you and I were at the Galleria with our children, and do you remember how like I kept telling you I was going to meet up with you? Because Caitlin was like, what? And then I just couldn't make it happen because there was just all this stuff going on in my mind about being at the Galleria. And let me start from the end. At one point, I found myself walking around the Galleria with this really heavy bag that I had brought with me. Now I don't even carry a purse normally. So we'll go into how all this happened. So I had a very heavy bag. I was wearing thick socks with ballet flats. My fingernails, which actually you can see in this episode because we're pre-taping this. JF on. No, that URL doesn't work. Never mind. You can search YouTube for Fulwiler 249 and you can see, I'm showing you right now, my nails are completely broken off. So my nails were broken off and I also had different colored streaks across my face and black lines and marks all over one hand. And I was very stressed out. And my bag was really weighing me down. And I was walking through the mall and I had told Caitlin like 7 times I was going to meet up with her and it kept not happening. And in that moment, I looked around at the other people at the Galleria and I was like, they're not doing this. They're not existing like I'm existing. They are not using their free will like I'm using my free will. But it all made sense to me. Okay, so the heavy bag, but this is so logical in my mind, guys. The heavy bag was because the Galleria is a big place. I thought the kids might want to be, able to explore it. The kids I brought were old enough that they could, as long as they were in pairs, they could go off on their own. And okay, I'm hearing it. All right, I'm hearing it because I have issues with being in labyrinthine places like that. I had to bring my iPad because I might need to journal. I'm not kidding. I was like, I might need to journal. I might need to do some journal speak while I'm at the Galleria, which is how most women react to shopping trips. I know, very relatable. You all have to bring your journals, in case you need to journal. And then I was like, but sometimes when I'm journaling, I have a burst of inspiration that's related to work. So I need to bring my MacBook. I have to bring my laptop because that could also happen. So, and it's very heavy to bring this bag. The socks with ballet flats are because we were out there to do some sailing with Joe. So we were in Houston, and it turns out we couldn't sail that day. And when I looked at the weather forecast, I did not look at the wind aspect of it. It was like 30 degrees colder than I perceived it would be because it was very, very windy. And you know what? This is like the third time this has happened on a Houston trip. So this is me at this point, but I had only brought my light ballet flats that I would wear in summer. But I did have some socks that are very thick wool socks that I sleep in. And I knew I'd be cold at the Galleria. So that's why I was wearing the bulging thick socks with the ballet flats. My nails were broken because this gal at the nail place said that I needed to do my nails longer. And I am very non-confrontational. And there was also a little bit of a language barrier. And I didn't want it to seem like that bothered me or anything, that we don't speak the same language. And so I just nodded, and I ended up with these very long nails that they were just breaking everywhere, like ripping into my nail bed. It was terrible. They were bleeding. And so I traipsed across the Galleria in my ballet flats and thick winter socks, lugging my MacBook and iPad in case I needed to journal. And I bought some nail clippers, and I'm like clipping my nails over a trash can at the Galleria. And the reason my face had these like kind of brown streaks on it, just on one side though, is because I had gone into Sephora and I was trying on foundation from their samples, but I forgot to wipe it off. And then there were also these like black lines on my hands because we were talking about eyeliner, and I was like, it's so hard to find high pigment eyeliner, and the guy was like showing me, and I forgot to wipe that off, and it was smearing everywhere. So if you had been at the Houston Galleria, you would have seen Caitlin being just completely normal, like checking out some stores, grabbing a bite at the food court. You would have seen me wearing ballet flats with winter socks, like hunched over in pain because I'm lugging this heavy bag that has my laptop and iPad in it. Brown streaks on one side of my face because this one foundation turned out to be a bronzer. Black marks on my hands, and I'm clipping my nails over a trash can. That is how I spent the day at the Houston Galleria. And I never, other than Sephora, like I didn't even like do any shopping because I just had a lot. It was all just very overwhelming. So actually, I think we've answered the question. Is it my reticular activating system finding reasons that I'm different from other people, or am I just different? Well, I think we've actually answered that. So, and this is why it helps me to have these kind of taxonomies, like Myers-Briggs, like personality tests, things like that. There's the Berkman inventory. There's all that. There's some people look at the Enneagram categorization. I find stuff like that useful because it is helpful to articulate you're crazy. That's what it is. It's helpful to articulate you're crazy so that you can begin to accept the sides of yourself that it just is. It's just part of who you are. Like to use sane people as an example, again, like introverts and extroverts, that is a normal spectrum. That on one side of the spectrum, you're very introverted. On the other side of the spectrum, you're very extroverted, and you can land anywhere in between. You could be kind of in the middle. You could be all the way to one extreme, that sort of thing. I find that very helpful because it helps us not unnecessarily beat ourselves up about things that we're just never going to be good at. It's never going to be our thing. And again, as someone who remembers life before the introvert extrovert paradigm was as well known as it is today, there were really a lot of people who just thought very bad things about themselves. They really thought that they had deep character flaws, that they were not virtuous people, that they were even sinning, doing the wrong thing, because they didn't have that lexicon to be able to put words to what was going on. They didn't have that label of, you know what, I'm an introvert. And that is why I struggle with this kind of thing. Actually, let's hit the sound effect for Catholic ghetto tangent. One of my favorite saints is Saint Francis of Rome. And even if you're not Catholic, you should look her up. Great story. So she wanted to be a cloistered nun, like, just do nothing but sitting in the convent praying all the time. And and she was really upset that her family wanted her to get married, but she ended up marrying a nice guy. But he was associated with the Medici family. He was in those sort of circles anyway, quasi royalty, and he was a great guy. They had a great marriage. He was very kind to her, and she liked him and all that. But what's interesting is because she was then part of the royal court scene, she had to go to all these court parties and events, and she actually collapsed from mental exhaustion from having to go to all of the parties after her wedding and go, meet all the people. And I was like, queen, yep. Queen. Yeah, that's when she became my patron saint. One of my daughters the middle name is Francis, from St. Francis of Rome. Very relatable. So, and again, she probably didn't have that lexicon. She probably didn't have that label to understand. It's not, she's literally a saint, she's a great gal, but I bet you anything. Well, in fact, I think this is part of her story. This actually happened, that a lot of the ladies at court, a lot of the ladies among the upper class Italians of the time really did judge her, because they were like, well, who doesn't like going to court? You're obviously, you're not holding up your duties as a high class wife. This is part of your duties. You're horrible. But people didn't have that way to understand. It's who she is, guys. It's who she is. She ended up doing all sorts of stuff to help the poor. And you really see this woman's story as a great example of when she started accepting herself, that she's just never going to be the rich wife, going to all of the parties and all that. It's not how she's wired. It's never going to be her. Then she was actually able to really lean into what she was supposed to do. She met a great friend, a woman who was also kind of introverted. The two of them became two peas in a pod. They really helped the poor, all that. Anyway, it's a great story. And again, even if you're not Catholic, it's just a good historical story of how this woman began to thrive when she accepted her temperament. And that it's hard to do if you don't have language for it. Before people had the introvert extrovert language, it was harder to accept that kind of temperament. Language gives us power over things. There's a lot of interesting theology about in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the connection of God to words, the power the power that God has to be able to create things and then name them. Okay, way too deep on a tangent. I know, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So anyway, that is why I did my extremely neurodivergent breakdown of kind of a Myers-Briggs type. What type of mom are you? Now we will get into that after I lay out for you the exact same type, Myers-Briggs type breakdown of your sleep temperament. And here's what made me think of it. One of my Instagram friends who is an influencer who I really love, she is someone who is doing influencing the right way. She's very popular in mom circles and homemaking circles. And but she's so authentic. And I don't mean authentic like, hey ladies, one time there was a sock on the floor at my house. Like I'm being so authentic. I mean like actually authentic. I love her. Her name is Chrissy Horton. Her Instagram account is Horton Lane. And she posted a video that is so sweet and it's so kind. And it has another like, is the problem me? I think we're figuring it out. It helped so many people, of the tens of thousands of people who watched it, but it actually triggered like PTSD in me from like, if I were one of the young moms she was talking to in the video, I would have actually had a nervous breakdown. And this is not her fault at all. It's the sweetest video you'll ever see. The problem is 100% me, but it has to do with sleep temperament. So let's take a listen.
I don't know if mama needs to hear this, but 8 months postpartum, she's 8 months old. She's still not sleeping through the night. Okay? We're up all night. Hence why I like look like this most days. This is baby number 6. I'm well aware of just how quick the season is. It is literally just a season. It'll go by so fast with my older kids. I really don't even remember these nights. So hang in there, mama. It's coming.
How sweet is that? How neurodivergent would you have to be to not take inspiration from that? Again, Horton Lane on Instagram. I assume she's on the other platforms as well. Okay. So she's talking about, she just had her 6th baby and you know, the baby's not sleeping through the night. By the way, that was a seriously adorable baby. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know all babies are cute, but oh, that's seriously cute baby. You can search Fulwiler 249 if you want to look up this episode on YouTube, or actually just follow Chrissy Horton. Maybe easier. So here is the reason, not just because I'm neurodivergent, that video would have stressed me out, like to the nth degree when I had little kids, because of my sleep temperament. I did not do well with babies and little kids waking up at night, like at all. And that advice, and friends would give me that advice. I mean, most women I knew who had lots of kids, they gave me that advice. Like, oh, but it's so short and it's just, you know, Chrissy has 6 kids. I have 6 kids. A lot of the women who would give me this advice had 6 or more kids. And if I had made a video when my 6th was 8 months old, and I don't think he was quite sleeping through the night, you know, her video was like, hey mama, like she's not sleeping through the night and that's okay. My video would have been like, kill me now. Like I mean, I was struggling so hard and it made me feel so terrible for all 6 kids. It made me feel so terrible that I couldn't get there with the like, oh, it's just a season. It's like, no big deal. I remember a mom at a play group was like, you know, I've just personally come to accept that a little bit of sleeplessness is, you know, it's another way that I can love my children. I was like, there's not enough alcohol in the world for me to deal with this. And I think a lot of it comes down to your sleep temperament. Like I know, a lot of people I knew were into co-sleeping. I seem to attract co-sleeping people. I know a lot of people who did it. There's no way that I could ever describe for you how much I don't have the sleep temperament for co-sleeping, because the big thing, and we'll go into the categorization here in a second, I do not easily go back to sleep once I have been woken up. And when I say not easily, I mean like it's done. Like if I get woken up, it's done. And so obviously every parent has to co-sleep sometimes. Your kids, they have a nightmare or they're sick or whatever, so they end up sleeping in the bed with you. So we did that sometimes. But here's the thing. Totally normal things, like a kid just kind of kicking you or rolling over on you a little bit. It would take me like a full hour to go back to sleep after that. And then right when I fall asleep, they'd kick me again. and then I couldn't go back to sleep again. And you have to understand, and I think you do after this episode. If you've made it this far in this episode, I think you do understand. My brain is either at 0 or 100. There is nothing in between. And so as soon as I get woken up from sleep, it's like, and we're off. It's like having a shotgun that starts a race. I mean, it's like a mile a minute. It can't stop. It doesn't stop. This is how you end up clipping off your designer nails while wearing winter socks with ballet flats with your laptop and your iPad at the Houston Galleria, because my brain never stops. And so it is very difficult for me to go back to sleep once I have been woken up. And that is why even hearing the word co-sleeping makes me feel slightly ill, because I like the torture that it would cause me when, again, just normal kid stuff, like they'd roll over, they'd bump into you a little bit. It was like, like all night I'm not sleeping, and then I am a complete monster the next day. So Caitlin, let's pull up. This is what inspired me to come up with my sleep personality type, sleep temperament. So again, you can look up this episode. Do you have, yeah. Okay. So make it bigger. You can screenshot this. Just search for Fulwiler 249 on YouTube, and you can screenshot this genius galaxy brain breakdown here. So just like Myers-Briggs, again, for it's 4 letters, and for each one of the spots, for each one of the slots, the 4 slots that you're putting a letter in, you choose one of 2 letters. So for those of you who are just on audio, you can just look this up on YouTube later. We have the actual write-up. I did this myself in Canva.
Really?
I should make so much more money on this podcast. Absolutely. Like I did this right before we went on the air here. I did this all myself in Canva. This is, again, this is what normal people do with their time. Okay.
I like this though.
Okay, thank you. See, I didn't know. I was like, is this too insane? This might be too insane. Okay. And again, if you're listening on audio, you can just track with us as best as you can, and you can take a screenshot on YouTube later. So this is episode 249. I don't think JF on youtube.com works, but you can try it. Okay. So for that, there are 4 slots, and you'll choose one of 2 letters for each slot. So the first one is, do you fall asleep easily, or is it hard for you to fall asleep? So if you fall asleep easily, that's an E. If it is hard to fall asleep, that's an H. All right, second spot. Do you stay asleep well? If so, that's an S. Or do you wake easily? If so, that's a W. So it's S or W for your second spot. Third spot. Are you a morning person? That's an M. Or are you a night owl? That's an N. Fourth and final spot. How well do you deal with lack of sleep? If you cannot deal with lack of sleep, that is a D. Mm-hmm. Wait, is that D? Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you can kind of tough it out, if you're okay with lack of sleep, that is an L. Now, my sleep personality type, I am an HSNL. It is very, very hard for me to fall asleep. And Myers-Briggs talks about this too, that you can be kind of more extreme or another on these letters. So I'm a very extreme H. It is, because I might need to spend 4 hours in theta state. I should not have told that story. I'm a very extreme H. It's hard for me to fall asleep because I have to think about all the things I might have to take to the Galleria for journaling. S, I tend to stay asleep pretty well if I can ever get to sleep, which is why it kills me when like co-sleeping and like little kids kick me or something. I'm like, oh, I could have stayed asleep and now it's over. Okay. So HSNL. So N, I'm very much a night owl. I'm very extreme on that. And L, I'm actually sort of okay with lack of sleep. I can deal with it better than some people can. Now, when I had that interaction a long time ago with that gal who was like, well, I don't mind being woken up by babies because I love my children. I'm pretty sure based on my conversations with her, she was an ESML. So she falls asleep easily, because I was chatting with her about that. So she falls asleep easily. She stays asleep easily. She's a morning person. And she's also like, she can kind of tough it out, grab some coffee and like make it work, with lack of sleep. if you are an HSNL, or even worse, if you're like, the worst personality combo would be if you are an H, hard to fall asleep, W, you wake up easily, N, night owl, D. So if you are an HWND, so it's hard to fall asleep, you wake up easily, you're a night owl, and you can't deal with lack of sleep, the worst thing that you could have happen is to try to live life like someone who is a ESML. You guys are living totally different lives when it comes to sleep. And I'm telling you, if I could go back in a time machine 15 years and tell myself one thing other than like how to invest and bet on Super Bowls, like if it couldn't be that, I really think I would say, know your sleep temperament and evaluate your parenting accordingly, because I really used to feel very bad that so many people were like, our whole family sleeps in the same bed all the time, and these are such treasured moments, and we love our children, unlike people who don't co-sleep. And I really chalked it up to virtue. I was like, I guess I just don't have enough love to go around, and I'm horrible, and I should be co-sleeping with all of my kids until they're well into adulthood. I mean, just 30 years old, like we should still all just get a huge bed and everyone sleeps in the same room. I really felt bad about that, and once I came up with my crazy little sleep temperament theory, I realized, yeah, it's just not going to work for me because it is so difficult for me to go back to sleep. I am a better mother. I am a better human being. I am more capable of loving people and just improving myself and improving my house and not having us live in a rat's nest. I can just do all of this much more easily if I am not co-sleeping and if I can get my babies to sleep through the night as quickly as possible. And I will say, I couldn't do the extreme, the cry it out or whatever. I couldn't do that. So very often, my babies did not sleep as well as I would like them to. And I did my best to just look at it like, okay, well, it goes by so fast. Like, the days are long, but the years are short. Not my experience at all. Days were long, years were long, everything was long. I feel like I was a parent for 1,000 years during that season. And I wish that I had understood that it's okay that I can't be chill with this. Just like if I were, St. Francis of Rome trying to go to all the feasts and parties and stuff for the royal court and all that. Sometimes you have to do it. Again, I wasn't going to do anything super extreme to get my kids to sleep through the night. So yeah, I mean, I was in that situation where I had babies that were getting close to a year old and didn't quite sleep through the night. And my version of just being chill with it and letting it be was to be like, this is a living hell for me. This is a living hell. I am barely dealing with this. And I think I actually could have been a better human being to everyone I encountered if I had just admitted to myself that this is my temperament and it's not going to change and this is hard for me. And just like an introvert having to go to a ton of parties, it's always going to be hard for me. And I'm never going to have a chipper, laid back attitude about it. I'm never going to be like, these are the days. Like, never, not about sleep. It's not going to happen. And so that's why sometimes even videos that are so kind, just perfectly done, so lovely, like Chrissy Horton's, again, follow her on Instagram, Horton Lane, super lovely video. But it would have made me cry when I had little kids, because I would be like, I can't get there. I can't get there. I can't have, like, I'm not as hot as she is. Her baby is so cute. Like, I mean, it would have been hard for me to see that video, because I would have been like, wow, this is another way that I'm failing, that I just can't have this chilled out attitude about it. But I'm sure for women like that, there are areas where they're like, I can do things that they can't do, can they be in theta state for 2.5 hours? That's fair. Wouldn't it be funny if I was like trying to be an encouraging influencer, but for like the things that actually go on in my mind and the problems I have? And I'm like, ladies, listen, I know that, you might be beating yourself up that you only did 3 hours of theta state meditation, but like, don't worry, you can do more. Like, I mean, can you imagine? I'd have less engagement than I do now, So that is why I think these kind of categorizations are helpful, so that you can just accept that there are certain things that are going to be easier for you and harder for you, which brings me to the main topic. So I didn't stop there. So the sleep temperament thing, I actually wrote about that in my Blue Flame book. So that is, I've had my little sleep categorization thing for a while. But after we finished last week's episode 248, you can look that one up if you didn't hear it. I was thinking about, I thought, there should be a specific mom personality chart that specifically deals with the kind of stressors that mothers face, so that you can categorize yourself and do the same thing that we do with Myers-Briggs. Do the same thing that we do now that we are aware of the sleep temperament chart. I'm a, what is it? I am a HSNL with sleep temperament, because I think it can bring us a lot of peace. It can show us the areas that are probably always going to be a little bit of a struggle for us, no matter how many efforts we make to improve. And it can also direct us to areas where we can be happy with ourselves and see areas where we're doing well. Because that was kind of the main point that I was making in episode 248, that you are not doing anyone any favors by living 24/7 mired in condemnation and guilt. It's not a love language. It doesn't make you a good mom. It's not good for you. It's not good for your kids, not good for your husband. It's not good for anyone. And you will actually have the energy to improve yourself and solve a few problems if you stop doing that. And I think my little mom categorization personality type thing will help you do that, because just like with Myers-Briggs, it'll help you understand the areas that are just probably always going to be weaknesses, but then areas where you can focus on, like, oh, hey, I'm not so bad at that. Okay, so Caitlin, put up my my very neurodivergent mom personality type categories. Make it a little bigger, please. And I tried to keep it to 4, but I was so worried that one of you guys wouldn't find anything. You'd be like, oh wow, I actually I don't have any of them. So I added a 5th. So unlike the sleep temperament thing in Myers-Briggs, this one has 5 letters, because I just wanted to make sure that we all find something in here. So again, it'll be easier if you look this up on YouTube. Just search for Fulwiler 249 on YouTube. You can screenshot my little chart, but you can also I will say it for those of you who are listening on audio. Okay, so there are 5 slots that you're going to choose a letter for each one. For the first one, when your house is messy, are you super stressed out about that, or are you not stressed out about that? And let me pause to say, for all of these, I mean, yet everyone to some extent is stressed out when their house is a mess. But I mean, does it make you twitch? Are you like, we're going to burn this place down or clean it up? Is it like it's a pretty big deal to you? Okay, so for this first slot, if you are pretty stressed out when your space is a mess, that is an N. Or if you're, again, nobody loves it, but if you're fairly chill with mess, then you are an M. Second slot. This is about sleep interruption. If kids stuff interrupts your sleep. Are you pretty stressed out when kids' stuff interrupts your sleep? If so, you are a T. Or can you kind of roll with it like, ha ha ha, these are the years going by very fast for me. That is an S if you are not too stressed out about that. So that's the second slot. You are a T or an S. Third slot. Do you struggle to have deep conversations with your kids? Like if they're like, why would a loving God allow suffering? If you're like, ooh, I wish we weren't talking about this right now. That is a... What letter is that, Caitlin?
D.
D. You're a D. And if you're like, actually, I'm so glad we're talking about this. I was just thinking about it in theta state. It's fine. but if you're like, you're okay with like meaty, heavy conversations with your kids, like going into the big topics. If you're okay with that, then that's a C. So for that third slot, you are either a D, like you have trouble with deep conversations, or a C, you're totally fine with them. Fourth slot. This is how stressed you are by like noise and people. Like imagine a kid birthday party. If you have a birthday party with 12 5-year-olds running around. If you are stressed by that, like lots of noise and people, being around, if that kind of thing stresses you out, you are a Q. And if that sounds fun, like, oh, great, I'd love, that sounds amazing. Noise, people, it's a lot of fun. Then give yourself a
K.
K. Okay. Q or K for that fourth slot. And then fifth and final slot for your mom personality type. This is about like how easy or hard is it for you to be out and about? Like let's say take your kids on a hike or take them to see a local tourist attraction. If that sounds like a living hell to you, if that sounds very hard, then give yourself an I for that one. And if that sounds like, oh yeah, that sounds, we could go for a hike or go check out that, I don't know, the haunted pole or whatever is like in your town, then give yourself a, what is that, Caitlin? O. Okay. So for the fifth and final slot, you are either an I or an O. And again, you can screenshot this on YouTube. And the other thing is, it's not... The idea behind this, you don't have to nail this perfectly. You don't have to remember this perfectly. If you're driving and don't remember what we just went through, really the idea is just there are different mom personality types. Mm-hmm. And there are things that you are going to be good at. And there are things that other people are good at that you're never going to be good at. And that's okay because you're not meant to be good at everything. That is not how God designed us. So with the motherhood temperament thing, I wrote down mine, but then I realized I changed my letters. So actually, let's see. So I'm not stressed out by mess. So I would be an M. I'm deeply stressed out by sleep interruption, T. Caitlin, write this down. Okay. So I'm an M, T. I have no problem with deep conversations at all. So I'm an MTC, that's C. I'm very stressed by noise and people, so that would be Q. And then I can't leave the house ever, so that's an I. So what is my temperament type?
MTCQI.
Yes, I'm an MTC. Hey, listen, don't talk to me. I'm an MTCQI. Now, again, it's not that you need to memorize this and know this off the top of your head, because who on earth would ever, other than the other listeners of this podcast, this will not be useful in any kind of conversation with normal people. But to just think about this a little bit, I think can really help you, because one of the things that we often miss in our individualistic culture, in which we don't have the villages that we were designed to need, is that God did not design you to be all things to your children. He didn't design you to, there are 5 letter options here, to be like all of them, like the perfect, I'm not stressed out by anything. Everything is fine. You can interrupt my sleep and I'll throw a party for 23-year-olds and whatever. Like, that's not meant to be you. I think one of the reasons that God doesn't give us all the perfect personality traits where we can do all of this is so that we need each other to foster village. If you lived 5,000 years ago or whatever in like an ancient tribe, maybe it would be like, you get really overwhelmed with a lot of the little kid stuff, but your sister who lives in the hut next door or whatever, she is super extroverted, really good with having all the kids run around. And let's say if you're not good at having deep conversations, like a teen is really struggling with something deep and dark and heavy, well, maybe your brother is great at that actually, and the teens can go talk to him about that. You weren't meant to be all things to your kids. And we lose sight of that because our culture is so individualistic and really believes that the best way to exist is as this autonomous, atomized, like, you're just perfectly self-contained. That's what the influencers think that everyone should be, like perfectly self-contained. Like I'm perfectly disciplined. I'm modeled for my kids how to go to the gym 3 times a day and take an ice bath and read the Bible and minister to people and be patient and throw parties and have time alone for reading and reflection. It's like, no, nobody is meant to do all of those things for their children. You were meant to do a couple of those things. You were meant to do a couple of those things, and the rest you probably won't be very good at. And if you're comparing yourself to other moms and who through your play group, or certainly other moms on the internet, you just keep in mind you are looking at different mom personality types. You know what? Another one I should have added, so there really should be 6, is how much can you just sit still with kids? Like there's an influencer I follow who's really into reading to her kids, like read aloud, and it's great, and it's lovely. I had her on my radio show. She's lovely. Read aloud revival. It's great. I tried doing that. And I'm a big reader. We come from a very literate, reading heavy family, but boy, ADHD is pretty deep in my family. We hated that more than I can possibly say. I like reading privately, but I realized just sitting and reading to my kids, and they couldn't sit still and I couldn't sit still. I'm I hate this. Let's all just go watch YouTube. So that is actually another one I should have added to the list is, I think that's just an inherent temperament thing. I mean, some people, you and your kids, you can read aloud and everyone's relaxing and focusing and let's do one more chapter and I did read to my kids when they were little. I should say I did do that, but it was hard for me to get over that hump. It wasn't easy for me. That didn't flow for me to just kind of get everyone organized and then choose the book and then, okay, we're going to read a couple chapters of this book. As an aside, because I was beginning to accept my personality type and my kids' personality type when I discovered children's murder mysteries, like the Dollhouse Murders. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's such a good book, Kayla. It really is. It's I remember it just captivated my imagination when I was in 5th grade. Dollhouse Murders. It is, if you are neurodivergent but want to read to your kids, that it's such a good book because it's scary and it's creepy and it is a little, they do talk about murders, so I was okay with sharing that with my little kids. Some people might have a different temperament on that, but that was an example of knowing I have trouble sitting still for read aloud time. So I think I told you guys when we were homeschooling, I tried to do Anne of Green Gables read aloud, and a certain child of mine just started screaming I hate this book so much. And I just had this moment where I was honestly, so do I. Someone has to be murdered for me to get further into this book because I really can't track with this. So obviously, again, the problem is us. But because I was starting to see, okay, I'm not a sit still and slowly read Anne of Green Gables to my super focused children kind of person, but I do see the value in reading to your kids. We're going to read murder, we're going to read murder mysteries. By the way, as an aside, I don't know what was going on with our parents in the 80s, but there were a couple other mystery books. Like there was an author called Christopher Pike, and he also did murder mysteries, and they were marketed to like 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds. I did know that they weren't for like 8-year-olds, but I thought of them as kids' books because I read them when I was a kid. Oh my gosh, it was like Euphoria. It was like Euphoria, but in a book. And I'm like, where were our parents? Like, why were we just allowed to go to the bookstore in the mall and buy this? It was such adult level, like, topics and what these, and it would be like, yes, this 15-year-old character did this crazy thing, again, straight out of a plot from Euphoria. And it's like, where were our parents that they let us read this? I started reading one because I forgot the plot to my kids, and it would be, it's a book written in the first person. It would be like, yes, and for my 15th birthday, after I put on my bikini, I went to the beach and I saw Blake there, and he and I'd be, and I was like, he and I decided to go to church and pray. The end. Okay, we're going to be looking for some other books. My word. So anyway, so it helped me to know my mom temperament, and that like sitting still is not a thing for me, to realize if I'm going to do read aloud time, I'm just going to have to do something differently. Whereas, when I was earlier in my parenting journey, I think I would have just kind of forced myself like, no, we have to read Anne of Green Gables, like, 'cause that's what the influencers are doing. And that is why I brought up the mom temperament thing. Even if you don't remember a word I said about my own little categorization system, it really doesn't matter. You come up with your own categorization system. But the point is that, similar to Myers-Briggs, the introvert-extrovert spectrum, there are all these different areas of motherhood where you can find it easy or find it stressful. Again, I always come back to this because it's probably the one thing I'm good. There aren't a ton of other things that I don't find stressful about. Really, just like being alive, like being in the world. But I will say, man, when some of my teens, would be like, why would a loving God allow suffering? And if Catholicism is true, then why have these bad things happen in the church? And I heard that there was this one scandal, and I'd be like, I love it. Let's let 2 hours right now. Let's go. Let's talk about all of this. And a lot of parents wouldn't be, they'd be like, ooh, that is not for me, these kind of conversations. And on the other hand, like, Caitlin, well, she's taken my kids to, like, we have a bat bridge in Austin where, like, we're famous for our bats. It's a good thing that the comedy scene came here, because that's depressing if, like, that's what your city's known for, is, like, we have some animals that are known, they're associated with vampires and rabies, and that's what we're known for. A friend of mine who doesn't speak English one time saw all the bats coming out from under the bridge, and it's so funny that all of these, like, white people named Connor were out there like, oh, it's the bats, yay, taking selfies. And she crossed herself and said, que feo, which in Spanish is how ugly, like how terrible. I was like, that's amazing. What a mood, like speaking truth. And crossed herself, que feo. Yeah, we really did need something else to be famous for in Austin. But it's the kids like the bats, and as long as they don't get rabies. And Caitlin took my kids out to see the bats because that would cause me a nervous breakdown. And you know what, Caitlin, if your kids ever want to be like, why would a loving God allow suffering? Send them to me. That's something we can sit in a dark room and be in our heads. Like, I'm very good at that, and I'm happy to help you. We can be each other's village.
We'll be here next weekend.
Yeah. You're like, all right, well, let's put it on the calendar. Please. Yeah. But so that's the thing. Caitlin should not beat herself up if she does not enjoy being in theta state for 4 hours. I know it's hard to believe. Like, she doesn't want to lie motionless in a bed and be in her head for 4 hours. She'd like to be outside and like on a hiking trail. I know it's weird, but like, we try to accept her, like, she shouldn't beat herself up for that. And I shouldn't beat myself up for not being like literally every other woman at the Houston Galleria who was just shopping, like, and just having a good time. And I'm clipping my nails in my winter socks with my ballet flats, and my face has stripes, like brown stripes on it. Like, I'm never going to be them. And thank God for them, they're never going to be me. And when you start to break down your personality and the areas that are they just inherently cause you stress. And then the areas that are like, actually that one I can do. That actually is not too stressful for me. Then you can start to accept yourself and avoid those habits of just constant condemnation and constantly feeling like you're just not good at anything. Come up with your own categorization if you want to. I mean, who could beat mine? It was so perfect. But if you want to, come up with your own categorization. Assign yourself a random series of letters like, I'm an XPTF or like whatever. But just do that so that you can remind yourself. Next time you see someone online who's like, wow, they're really nice and they are genuinely trying to be encouraging. And this is so depressing to me because I just can never get there. I just can't do what they're doing. Go back to your personality type and be like, yeah, my mom personality type struggles with this. And I'm not alone. There are other women who are like this. I'm not alone. Actually, with me, I might really be alone. Like there might not be any other women like me. But when again, even if you choose your own set of letters to describe your personality, I think it's helpful to know because then you can go back to that and be like, yeah, okay, you know what? Good for that influencer. I think she's like SJFP, like that's her mom personality type. I have a different personality type. And just like two totally different Myers-Briggs types shouldn't compare themselves to each other. I need to not compare myself to that person because we find different things stressful and we find different things easy. And that's just who we are. And when we come together, instead of falling into spirals of negativity and comparison, that's when you start to form a really cool village. All right. Come out. If you're in Denver, come out tonight. I'm filming another special, New York City, May 10th, and I'm hitting other cities as well. jfcomedytour.com is where you get your tickets. Get on my email list. While you are there, join the Patreon, patreon.com/thisisjen, and I will be back with you next week here on the Jen Fulwiler Show.